Hi, my name is John Escobar, and we're going to be discussing 5 tips and considerations when recording Ambisonics. Because our image is derived from the combination of the various capsules working together, it's very important to be really precise in the recording level for each channel. Ideally, you want to get them to be within 1/10 of a dB of each other. Though you could theoretically do this with individual analog preamps, it's going to be much easier to do so on digitally controlled preamps via a digital recorder. This also allows you to link pairs or groups of channels together so that one gain knob or fader controls all the channels involved, making setting your levels much easier. Another benefit of working with a digital recorder is that you can also record your audio at a higher sample rate, which means that you've got more digital fidelity, and because we're capturing 360 immersive audio, that means that you get more detail out of the environment that you're capturing. We're trying to get our recorder to within 1/10 of a dB from channel to channel. In order to do that, you can easily use pink noise or any other kind of test tone to accurately calibrate those signals. Whatever you decide to use as your signal test tone, as you set your gain staging for your preamps, you're going to want to make sure and leave 12 to 16 dB of headroom so that as your performance happens, you've got room for dynamics. Keep in mind that even though your signal generator is now going to be showing even signals across all of your channels, when you're actually capturing your recording, you're going to see signals vary from channel to channel depending on the source that you're capturing. Regardless of what your recording might be used for later, it's really important to be aware of the acoustic space around you when dealing with placing your microphone. Large objects like walls tend to partially absorb but mainly reflect sound back into the room, causing delayed and layered arrivals at the mic. These reflections give us a sense of distance from the sound source, as well as the direction of where that sound is coming from. The louder a sound source is, the more air pressure there will be in the room, and the reflections will be more obvious. The reflections will arrive at each capsule and provide a sonic image much like our ears get. In this example, we can hear the proximity to different sides of the room and its reflective surfaces. These changes in air pressure are what cause signal levels to vary on each channel. If you are making ambisonic audio recordings to use as a bed in which to layer other sound sources, you will want to pay attention to all of the details that make up the sonic texture of that space. You can pick a central location in the space which gives you a good balance of the overall environment and use that as your mic listening position. The more complex that texture is, or if you want the ability to immerse your listener into this environment at different areas, you will need to do a more detailed capture. You'll need to capture several listening positions at the various places in the environment where there are strong sonic changes and use those to stitch together an overall sonic image. When using Ambisonics to capture a musical performance, you should have a clear idea of what perspective you're hoping to capture. Will this be the vantage point of an audience member, or will you be allowing the listener to get a performer's perspective? In either case, you'll want to be aware of the dynamic balance of the ensemble in the space, as this balance will be reflected and perhaps exaggerated in the microphone's capture. You need to either move the microphone around until you find a well-balanced listening position, or adjust the player's positions in relation to the mic. You may also choose to add spot microphones at each instrument to help you capture fine tonal and dynamic details. Higher order ambisonic microphones help this by having more capsules and therefore dedicated points of reference in each direction. The final thing when we're dealing with mic placement is that often in an ambisonic recording, we're dealing with 360-degree video. This adds a little bit of complication because the camera is also seeing around itself, which makes it a challenge to pair the microphone to the angle of the camera. So A, you need to make sure that the microphone is out of the sight of the camera, yet still paired with your visual. B, you need to make sure that the camera noises like fans are not affecting the input of your microphone, or rather what it's listening to. And C, depending on the type of tripod or camera stand that you're dealing with, it doesn't become an obstacle of sound into your microphone. Generally, when making a recording, you're going to want to be listening to what that sounds like in real time. Unfortunately, this is one of the aspects that's a little bit tricky with ambisonic recordings. It's not as easy as panning left and right, because remember, the 4 channels that you're capturing, which are called an A format recording, are not intended to be listened to as 4 individual channels. It's the immersion of those channels together. Therefore, we can't simply pan left, right for each of your channels. So you have a couple of choices. You can either do what we call a fold down or do a pseudo stereo by picking 2 of the channels and panning 1 left and 1 right. The other option is to do a real-time A to B conversion. You can do this on some DAWs using plugins, or if you happen to be using one of the more modern field recorders, they will sometimes provide real-time A to B conversion right onto the recorder. There's a lot of fine details when capturing ambisonics. Some of the details that you're going to want to be keeping track of are the calibration. Not only what did you use as a test tone, but what levels were you getting when that test tone was playing back through your system and into each channel. Also, you're going to want to make sure and document the directionality of your microphone towards your sound source, especially if you're pairing that recording to a visual. Was your microphone front facing? Was it upside down, or was it end fire? All of these together later in post-production are going to help you accurately recreate the environment that the microphone was in. Even though it might seem like a lot to remember, keeping these 5 tips in mind when recording ambisonics will result in a better recording.